Can you see the slides?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so today we'll take a new topic for our study, or you can say knowledge, that is watershed modeling. So, in this watershed modeling, we'll be studying the various Standling modeling approaches, its classification, concept, overall description of the different parameters, factors that are responsible for modeling of rainfall, runoff, subsurface, ground surface. So nowadays you will be seeing each and every government, each and every central government or state government is giving more focus on watershed management. So we must be knowing what is watershed, how we are going to manage it, how remote sensing and GIS GPS technology is used for management of such watersheds. So we'll go to the next slide. So in the current topic, I'll be dealing with the watershed delineation, watershed modeling, mathematical modelings. So whenever we are talking about watershed, we are trying to calculate the entire amount of runoff generated from starting point till end point, so that we can know what is the total amount that we are getting. For example, I'll make it more easy to understand. Like if you're staying in a hostel, you know what is the total monthly amount that you will be getting as a, you can say, the parents provide you each and every month for housing, for HRA, for fooding, for purchasing of clothes, for purchasing of books. So out of that 3,000, for example, if you're getting 3,000 rupees, so amount that 3,000 has to be redistributed in different divisions of what I have stated. In the same way, we know that what is the precipitation, we know that what is the recharge that has happened through the infiltration process to the aquifer system. We know that how much evapotranspiration or how much evaporation has taken off. We know that how much amount of runoff is being generated and finally going and meeting into the sea. So now we can calculate easily the water deficit area, or we can say we can create a water budget, just like a economical budget that the government of minister always states in state or is in central government. In the same way, you can take a watershed budget, or you can calculate a watershed or a water budget of any watershed using the different models, whether that is a statistical based model, or whether that is a computerized model, or whether that is a ground based models that can be used. You see, whenever you're going for any kind of modeling, it cannot be a single handedly. There has to be have some statistical justification modeling, then you have to have some computerized modelings, and finally the logic, the concept, the basic fundamentals that has to be involved for finally watershed management. So we'll be practicing it, we'll be reading it, what are the different parameters. So whenever you see or whenever you talk about watershed, this is the watershed that we are talking about. This is the dotted line that you see on the map. This is the watershed that we are trying to do. And whenever you have got a flood line condition, like you're seeing in Himachal, Uttarakhand, Kashmir. So that is because of high amount of runoff generated in the upland ratio. Because there is a difference between a upland and a plain land. In the upland, the number of tributaries, the number of streams are very high. If the numbers of streams are very high and their length is small, they'll produce an enormous amount of runoff if they receive high precipitation. And because of the topography, because of the relief, the speed of the water increases. That's why you're seeing more recurrent, more disastrous incident more popular in the hilly terrain, in the mountainous terrain because of this phenomena. So that's why it's very important to delineate the watershed. So what is watershed? Water is a land area that drains water to the outlet during a rainstorm. So majority what we have already studied in our drainage morphometric analysis classes, those principle, those fundamental has to be considered whenever you are going for watershed delineation. So how you will be dividing or delineating a watershed boundary? It consists of a line drawn across the contours joining the height elevation surrounding the basin. So you can see that these are the watershed that is going and meeting to this particular sea. So that's why that has been demarcated as one watershed. So a common task in hydrology is a differentiation or a delineation of a watershed from topographical maps. That's why you will see ki nowadays the remote sensing and GIS technique, also known as geoinformatics, is readily used by geologists, is readily used by civil engineers, is readily used by environmentalists, it's readily used by geographer, because each and every discipline, whether that is a botany, zoology, chemistry, that involves the mapping, that involves the monitoring of inaccessible higher altitude area, which and every place you cannot go in. And in order to understand the geogenesis of any area, the remote sensing and GIS techniques provides you with the best insight of entire, because whenever you're talking about river, that is a regional feature. You cannot go and map each and every unit or each and every parameter related to it, because that depends on the various land use, land cover characteristics that are available in that area. That's why you need a synoptic idea about that area. Until unless you're not getting the real representation, you cannot have a real finding or investigation. That's why we are using the remote sensing data sets, we are using the UAV data sets, that is unmanned air vehicle, nowadays very popularly known as drones. You're seeing that each and every day in Jammu and Kashmir, the drones have been prohibited because of their negative impacts. But here we are going into the positive impacts of those technology for the management of water resource. That's why we'll be using the topographical map, the survey of India maps that you have already seen. We have got a huge number of collection in our department of various scales, whether that is of a 5,000 scale, 10,000 scale, 20,000 scale, 50,000 scale, 2,50,000 scale. When you are changing the scale, means you are changing the information, the amount of information will be different at different scales. So the themes, whenever you're going for a watershed delineation, mapping or management, depends on various themes, because you have to go for the topographical analysis, you have to go to see the height of each and every terrain. So if you want to see the height of each and every terrain, you cannot go and sample. What is the technology through which you can get a height? Either you have to go into the field, you have to manually use different equipments, and then you have to generate those contours, and using those contours you will be generating the digital elevation model. But physically it is impossible for going in each and every place and creating a high resolution digital elevation model. Then again, a alternative and the best technique that is used for creation of digital elevation model for any topographical calculation or topographical visualization is the remote sensing data sets, where you have got SRTM DM, that is shuttle radar topographic mission of a spatial resolution of 90 meters, 30 meters. Then you have got Aster GDM that has a spatial resolution of 30 meters. Then you have got Cartosat data set, that are the 3D data sets that provide you high resolutions up to zero point 0.5 meter of space. So you can obtain a very high resolution contours, a very high resolution digital elevation model of any area using those satellite images, and that will solve your purpose. Apart from that, you want to know the location of the cities, you want to map the different land use, land cover characteristics like building informations, roads, railway roads, road types, pipelines, what are the existing water bodies, forested areas, stream network, whether over the decade because of any construction activity related to any road, railway, we have just constructed, or whether we have seen these hydrological features while creating of those railway lines or road lines. Because why it's important to see the construction of railway lines or the designing, because I come from a mountainous plateau terrain that is in Jharkhand, and there is a reservoir from which we are getting a water for our drinking and day-to-day activities. And recently, not I'll say recently, 10 years back, there was a new concept given by a particular government, and they have created a road that was, I'll not mention the road name, and next you can Google it. And because of the construction of that road, the drainage system were choked up. So what you have done, you have divided the drainage system into two parts. You have cut this drainage system at a 90 degrees. So what happened? The upland ratio, the water that used to bring to that reservoir was blocked because of this construction of road. And because of this construction of the road, that reservoir capacity has enormously decreased, because that is not getting sufficient amount of runoff that was or that used to be generated from the upland area. Now because of those construction, that water is diverted, or that water stays near the road line or the railway line, and that reservoir, even if there is a high rainfall, that is insufficient to hold that water, because he is not getting that water from the upland ratio. So that's why construction of various land use or utilities is very important for any kind of management or watershed management. So that's why watershed delineation, topographical maps are very important for delineation, for mapping of any area. So you can see that how this watershed boundary can be easily delineated. This is a topographical sheet that has been scanned, and that can show you the real representation of the streams. Because until unless you don't have a map, you cannot go into the field and you can identify which are the first order streams, which are the second order streams. Generally you can easily identify the perennial streams where the water is available throughout the area, but the runoff, that the water that is generated, or that rivers that are seasonal in nature, the first order stream or the second order stream, that can only be identified using either the satellite digital elevation models or using the topographical sheets. That's why that are very important for your watershed delineation activity. So once you have delineated those watersheds, now you will trace the boundary. So how you will trace the boundary? You'll start at the outlet and then draw a line away from the left bank. As we have already stated, we know okay, how to order the stream, what are the first order stream, second order, third, fourth. So that is the principle that has to be continued, that has to be used while delineation of watershed. So the remote sensing and GIS techniques provides you the best insights about the contours, about the height, about the distal elevation model, about the various kinds of orders of river streams that are available, and thereafter you can perform the various kinds of mathematical statistical calculation using those satellite images. So you can see that these are the topo sheet, and you can see how beautifully, how accurately each and every tributaries, each and every stream that is flowing in any particular area can be located, can be monitored, can be demarcated, can be delineated. And over the decades, if you want to see what are the changes that has happened in that particular river system, or in that particular stream, or in that particular area, with respect to the changes in the land use, land cover categories, the slope, topographic, geology, geomorphology, land use, water table. All such features can be easily identified using this watershed and using the remote sensing and Survey of India maps. So, what are the delineation steps that you have to follow when you are going for the watershed delineation? The step one comprises of choose the point of a watershed outlet, and this is generally our point of interest for designing the structure or monitoring location. So that is why we are going for this water budgeting. We are going for this water budgeting because our population is increasing. So if you are not looking for an alternative of, if you are not going to monitor your existing structure, their health, or if you are not going to identify the new points or the new areas where you will be constructing different kinds of reservoir, dams, ponds, lakes, nala bunds. So you have to construct that water. You have to construct that features in order to store that water, and for storing that water, for understanding the dynamics of the water movement, you have to use the scientific content, the scientific methods, the latest methods that are used for watershed mapping, boundary delineation, using the various satellite image techniques in association or in collaborations with the various field instruments, so as to identify the structures and the monitoring system. So once you have identified this watershed boundary, so you can see how beautifully this 3D topographical representation can be done using the satellite based data sets, and you can identify each and every boundary, each and every stream, each and every height of each and every river that is flowing in any particular area by various kinds of contour lines that are used for mapping and monitoring in that area. So using the computer GIS data, we'll be storing the data, we'll be creating the digital elevation models to prepare or store the topographical form in the form of grid cells. So typically this grid cells has a resolution of 30 meters already as discussed, and can be less or elevation intervals of 1 meter. So using a DM within a GIS, we can perform the digital terrain analysis for calculating of slopes, flow length, and delineate the watershed, the stream network. So you can see we can create such kind of maps where the different relief topographical analysis can be generated using those images. So how you will be generating those digital elevation models? We'll be using the GIS softwares that are used for delineation of those features streams, that is ArcGIS. So there are two kinds of softwares that are used. One is proprietary software, one is open source software. So ArcGIS, when we are talking about, that is a proprietary software, and the company who owns the proprietary license is ESRI. But if that is very costly in nature and you want to install in your laptop, so the other alternative that you have got is a QGIS, quantum GIS, that is free of cost. You can easily download it, and you can perform all the practicals, all the mathematical statistical analysis using the various tools that are available. So if you are going for the ArcGIS, you have got two tools that are prominently used for delineation of watershed, that is ArcMap and ArcCatalog. They are the two features. In the ArcMap, we'll be using for performing the operations in the data. For ArcCatalog, that is used for maintaining the data, for storing the data, for managing the data, for getting the data. And finally, the inputs are required. That inputs can be through topo sheet, can be through digital elevation models, and finally there is another software that is readily used in geoinformatics or remote sensing GIS, that is ADAS Imagine. So this ADAS Imagine is a image processing software that is used to correct, that is used to either that is atmospheric correction, or whether you want to go for geometric correction, whether you want to do various kinds of filterings, you want to remove the errors that are generated, and finally to classify a map. All such features, all such analysis can be easily be done using ADAS imaging software. So once you have used this ArcMap or ArcGIS software, there is another tool containing in it, that is a ArcCatalog box. So in the ArcCatalog box, you have got the various tools where you can modify the data, you can read the data, you can determine the data, you can view the data, and all the data sets or all the GIS operations that we are performing in GIS. Generally we perform, or the extension that those files have is a .ssp files. So .ssp files are the files that are generated using a ArcGIS catalog and finally edited in ArcMap. And the map will provide as a background for creating the shapefiles. Or finally, using all these softwares and their various features, will be identifying the watershed boundary, will be contour, digitization will be done from the topo sheet, and finally, these are the steps that we are going to do, and we'll get this digital elevation model. So what we are going to do? First, we are going to geo-register our topo sheet. Once we have geo-registered our geo-reference or data set, geo-referencing means like each and every place has got a specific geographical latitude and longitude. If we have a map that doesn't represent a geographical latitude and longitude of any area, means that map doesn't have a projection system. So georeferencing means providing a projection system from an unknown projection system to a defined projection system. That can be UTM, that can be geographical latitude, longitude, and there are various other projection size systems that are available. But finally, if you want to perform or do any kind of analysis in GIS, you have to first georeference your data set. You have to provide a location to the data sets, and once you have identified those data sets, once you have got the positioning of the data sets, you can create the save files, you can digitize the map. Once you have digitized the map, you can generate the digital elevation model. Once you have generated the digital elevation model, you will be filling of digital elevation model will be done, and thereafter we'll be performing the flow direction, flow accumulation for that particular watershed. So first what we have to do, first initially we'll create a shapefile. So initially a shapefile is created in ArcCatalog. For contours, the poly shapes are used. Generally whenever we are talking about digitizing of any feature in GIS, you have got three features that can be digitized, that has got a projection system, that is a point, line and polygon. So when we are talking about drainage, that is a line feature. So that's why, or whenever we are talking about contour, that is a line feature. That's why we are taking, or we are stating that as a polyline. So the coordinate system of the save file must be determined, because if there is a river system that is flowing in UP or Banaras or Jharkhand, so until unless that projection or that drainage doesn't have a projection system, it won't go and fit to its spatial location. Like if you don't have a positioning system, so it won't be able to recognize whether it is flowing in UP or it is flowing in Maharashtra, or whether it is flowing in Gujarat or Rajasthan, until unless it doesn't have a coordinate system. So that's why providing a coordinate system is very important prior to perform any kind of statistical or mapping of that area. So an existing coordinate system can be used to, or a coordinate system for another file can be important. So there are two ways you can provide a coordinate system. Either you take any map which has a coordinate system and you assign the same coordinate system to the map that you are going to generate, or you can assign a new projection system to that map or that shape file. So once you have provided on, you have started creating those shape files in GIS softwares, we'll be providing an attribute data sets to each and every features that we are digitizing. So there are two kinds of data sets whenever we are handling a GIS software. One is the spatial data sets, other one is the non-spatial data set. So when we are talking about the spatial data sets, we are talking about the spatial information of the data sets. And whenever you're talking about non-spatial data sets, we are trying to correlate the names associated with each and every spatial data. So that is the meaning of attribute data. Once we have created the attribute data, once we have created the non-spatial data, we will be start digitizing our contours. Once we have started contour digitization has been done, then this cell file is added into the ArcMap as a layer. Then we'll be using this editor toolbar for starting, for editing, for creating, for completing of the entire contours, which represents the heights with its elevation. So once we have created a contour, now we'll be going into the arc catalog toolbox that is available in a ArcMap to create the spatial analyst extension, where we'll be going for the interpolation tools. We'll be opening up the topo to raster options. In the topo to raster option, we'll be specifying the input file. The input file will be the shape file that we have created. Once we have created, we have identified, we'll change the type as a contour and the fields to the elevation. Once we have performed, we have assigned the names of each and every individuals in that software, will generate the topo to raster to generate a digital elevation model. So using the entire remote sensing data sets as well as the GIS data sets, will be generating the digital elevation models. So once we have got a digital elevation model, we can know the height of that area. Height means the contour of that area represents which are the area which at a higher location, which are the area which are at a lower location. And in case if there is some problem related to your contour, there are various hydrological toolbox where you can fill the data set if there is some sinks in that area, and we can remove the small impervious layers or the data sets that are available in that area. Once we have performed, we have rectified all our digital elevation models, we'll be creating a flow direction map. So this flow direction map is created by FieldDM, is used to prepare the flow direction map. So the flow direction tool is available again in the hydrological toolbox in the spatial analyst extension, where it creates the raster with a flow direction to the spatial or the steepest neighboring cell down the slope. So according to its location, according to its dimension, the direction of the various flow of the water in respect of the topography is calculated, and by the direction of the flow must be known for each cell, because its direction of flow that determines the ultimate destination of the water flowing through that area. So using this flow direction, we will be knowing about the various kinds of drainages that are existing in that area. Now, once you have done flow direction, now you have to perform flow accumulation. So it is done again with the hydrological toolbox. It shows the drainage path based on flow direction, that is a raster. So whenever we are talking about raster and vector, raster is the arrangement of data in the form of pixels, that is in the form of row and columns. And whenever we are talking about vector data, we are talking about point, line and polygon. And after getting all these data sets using the flow direction, we'll be calculating the flow accumulation. So after getting the flow accumulation, all the 4 points are required to determine the water pertaining to the flow path. So we create a point shape file for determining the 4 points. So these 4 points are determined in the path using the flow accumulation raster, and the care should be taken that the 4 points lines in the line of flow accumulation. So you have to identify these 4 points in your satellite images. One, you have identified these 4 points using the watershed toolbox. In the hydrology toolbox, a watershed is delineated. The input required are the flow direction from raster and the 4 points shapefile. And if there are multiple watershed in a topo sheet, the water corresponds to the drainage part is also calculated. So you can see that this is on the right hand side at the top. You can see a distal elevation model calculated using the contour map from the distal elevation model. So once you have done that, now we will be providing with the different watershed codification. So in tomorrow's class, we'll be studying in detail about the various kinds of watershed codification, delineation given by Central Groundwater Board, given by the various water agency, and we'll be identifying each and every parameter, each and every stream into the detail, whether we are talking about catchment, basin, sub-catchment, then watershed, sub-watershed, micro-watershed, mini-watershed. So what are the technology, what are the techniques, what are the codes that are used for delineation, for codification? We'll be doing tomorrow in detail about the codification, and you can see that each and every drainage, each and every stream of any particular area is provided with a drainage, so that you can assign, you can delineate each and every feature of a drainage using the various code. So these codes are generally just like a pin code, like each and every area. If you go for the postal address, they have got a different pin code associated with it. In the same way, we have provided the different pin codes in terms of watershed codification, where each and every river system tributaries connected to a particular river system is provided with a particular code. So once we have provided the we have delineated, we have identified the stream, we have created the contour. Now we know that what is the watershed area, what are the different codes. Now we'll be going for the watershed modeling. So watershed modeling involves a systematic approach where motivation is required to solve the various problems of the watershed, which are each and every watershed is under tremendous stress. So that stress has to be reduced using the scientific investigation. And finally, the method that will be used, it will be solving. And why we are using this watershed modeling? This is used because we want to assess the runoff in a watershed for the given rainfall condition. What is the runoff that is generated? Once we have know what is the amount of runoff that is generated, we can estimate the groundwater level in that watershed. Once we know that what is the total amount of water that is available in that area, we can assess the groundwater pollution problem in any watershed. Because nowadays you can see that each and every watershed is related or associated with various kinds of water pollution, or the whether that is a surface pollution or a groundwater pollution. So using such a modeling, scientific investigation, you can identify the areas which are having these problems, and finally you can model those problems to get meaningful information to the decision makers. We can go for various kinds of management problem. So what are the watershed management and modeling? There is two questions that is arises after all this management and modeling. One is what is the management problem, and second is what is the need to model or solve this management problem. So in a management problem, decision has to be made like planning and operation of concerned management system in order to achieve certain goals without violating the technical non-technical constraints that are imposed on the managed system. For example, the case of construction of a dam at the outlet of a watershed, the decision that has to be taken is where the check dam has to be constructed, what will be the size, what will be the height, how much amount of storage is possible. So if you are a hydrogeologist, and if you are given with a task, at last each and every person will want to know, okay, what is the location, what is the height, what is the site, what is the storage. So such kind of operations can only be performed using the latest scientific investigations. So, watershed modeling, a model means a model may be defined as a selected simplified version of a real system which is approximately simulates the latter's excitance response relations to that of an interest. Means whenever you are going for a modeling, you have to model each and every feature, whether that is a rainfall, whether that is a overland flow, whether that is a infiltration, the river, the flow dynamics underground. Means each and every parameters has to be modeled whenever you are going for a watershed modeling. You have to go and you have to model the geological features, you have to go and model the geomorphological features, because on the basis of your geology, on the basis of your geomorphology, there will be different amount of runoff generated at different geological features, different geomorphological features, and depending on their position on geology and geomorphology, you will be getting the various kinds of chemical intrusions, and you have to check for the designings, and finally we'll go for the modeling procedure. So first step is identification of information required for management decision. That is, for example, for groundwater flow modeling, the following information includes: what is the water level at the selected points, what is the spring discharge, what is the boundary discharge or recharge concentrated at specific or specified points, quantity and quality of the water that is pumped, geological features, hydrological parameters. Then the second two involves the conceptual model, where you have to simplify the complex real system for the understanding of the nature and its behavior. Some simplifying assumptions that are introduced in respect of geometry of investigation of the terrain, what is the effect of heterogeneity at different scales, nature of solid and fluid phases involved, flow regimes of the fluids, whether you're talking about the physical, chemical, and the biological processes, and finally the selection of appropriate conceptual model for a particular case depends on the various parameters, like what is the objective of your investigation, where means what is the kind of information that has to be modeled, what kind of expectation is required, and what is the purpose of making management this decision. Then the next is the available water resource, including the expertise, skilled paper, skilled personnel, field data, computers are required for the construction and solving of the models. And this includes the ability to understand and describe processes that takes place, and the data is required. Finally, whenever I'm telling that this and this has to be done, so until unless you are not validating your model, whether that is using a statistical process or the field based processes, because at last the government will be spending a large amount of money to it. So until unless you are not checking for the legal and the regulatory framework, you'll be finding difficulty in modeling these features. And finally, once you have done all this validation, you will be developing a mathematical model where you will be going for the definition of geometry of the operation equations that express the balances, flux equations that relates to fluxes, then constitutes an equation, sources and sinks, initial condition, boundaries condition, then model development, model verification, validation, calibration, and parameters, where you will be checking the various data sets using, I've already stated, either that is field based data sets or that is the conceptual data sets that we are going for the different models, and then we'll go for the latest models that are used for various kinds of your hypothesis solving. And finally we can conclude that the information that the model was expected to provide, what is the kind of model that is going to provide the solution, then additional information for checking the data sets, then what are the uncertainty, what are the processes, what are the stages, and finally we'll come with a report, and we'll be pre-processing the data sets, we'll be processing the data sets, and we'll be post-processing the data sets with model limitation. What is the limitation of that model? Because each and every model whatever we are talking about has got some limitation, so we'll be discussing the limitation. Then it can be conceptual relation related to the representation of actual process or the system with a model. And finally the data limitation, what kinds of data limitation you had in that data set. And finally you will be going for the watershed modeling, that involves formulation and calibration with verification, and finally to the application of the watershed model constituent, whether that is an input function, output function, or a transport function. So with this I'll be ending my today's presentation on watershed mapping and modeling. Now we can have a few minutes of group discussion, and thereafter we can conclude the classes.